Welcome to Vendetta Sports Media. We are running the daily show today. It is March 20th. I am James Herrick, joined by Giramani DePena. How we doing?
Hey man, I'm good and got myself a nice fresh cut over the weekend. So I'm rocking. I'm ready to go back. Spring break is over, which is kind of sad, but I'm ready to attack the week.
Yep. And we got a big week ahead, and a lot of big things happening. World Baseball Classic, something we're going to touch on. A couple big games coming up. But last week we had a pretty big week. Fantasy baseball draft for Vendetta Sports Media happened. Make sure you go check that out on the site if you have not. But we've got some debate going on. Milo dropped his rankings of the teams, and people have some opinions on the rankings of those teams. So we're gonna go through Milo's rankings, talk about them, and let's see here. Here we got the rankings popped up, and I guess we could start with some of the top teams. Someone at the bottom is not happy with where they're being ranked, and we can talk about them when we get to them. But what do you make of Andrew's team getting the top spot here on Milo's preseason power rankings?
Yeah, I don't find that to be very surprising at all. Andrew, he even said during the stream that he was doing his scouting, and I feel he probably put the most work out of anybody to kind of see like where like some of the diamonds in the rough would be and all that. I know like Gunnar Henderson has a lot of promise, and then you can kind of bank on Bo Bichette having himself a really solid year. So he definitely all around has a good pitching staff and a great offense as well. So I think it's gonna be tough to beat. We just got to see how these guys play. We got to see his strategy put in practice when the season starts up. But I don't mind I don't mind Andrew being the top of the list.
Yeah, I'm down with that too. Really good roster. He had the first overall pick, so we got Shohei Ohtani. Helped to a lot of great players here. I think catcher, first base, second base, bang, bang, bang. That's a really good first three names you're looking at. Real Muto, Goldschmidt, Altuve, Bo Bichette. A lot of players I really like here. Like you said, good pitching staff. I don't think there's really much controversy in terms of Andrew being number one. And then Milo likes his own team, who he's got at number two. I'm sure he's not too happy about getting auto picked a couple of Padres. I thought he got. Oh no, I thought he had Yu Darvish on his team. I thought he got auto picked Yu Darvish, but I guess I'm
Mm.
wrong. Looking
You
through
got to
rankings
keep in
here.
mind now that his team is slightly different. It's already been a day since he dropped these, and it's already because he made a trade with me. So when we get to my team, then I'll talk about it more. But some of his guys are no longer on that roster, so I don't know if he's still number two.
All right, let's go through the trade right now. Then, what was the trade? And we can scroll down to your team, which I believe was number 5. And I like your team. I think you have a good team, by the way.
Yeah, and I don't mind just to kind of like just talk about my team. I don't mind being placed at 5 because he's not wrong in terms of it's more offensive heavy. But yeah, for the trade me and Milo made, I traded second baseman Andres Jimenez to him for I believe it was Taylor Ward, it was Nate Lowe, and I believe Ahmed Rosario.
A lot of depth. A lot of depth there you're getting.
Yeah, absolutely. So I like the trade. Me and him, we're going back and forth. It's funny, just like with fantasy sports, you actually like you have to think in the mind of a GM. So it's obviously like I'm not really super big on preseason trades like that, but I was like I would say probably that's probably going to be the one move I make before the season starts. But I mean, hey, you never know. It's kind of hard to predict what kind of seasons guys will have until the season actually gets started.
Yeah, and you're getting a 3-for-1 too, which that makes it a little bit easier when you are making that preseason trade too.
Yeah,
Not
absolutely.
as much risk in that regard. Who did you have to drop anyone since you got 3 players? And if
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
who'd you let go?
I had to let go. I believe it was Ranger, and I believe I dropped Cattell Marte as well.
Gotcha. And I like your team too. I thought you had a lot of really good picks. I think where you sniped a couple guys from me. Edward Cabrera was one snipe you had off me. I had Edward in my sights. Obviously that's not like the top player on your team or anything, but that was one
Yeah,
that stood out to me is I was going after him and you sniped him. So Jordan Alvarez, Juan Soto, Arenado, once again, a lot of really good players. Moving back up here, the three and four, we have Bagdonis and Mr. Julian here. in the 4 spot. Once again, I think these teams are pretty well rounded. I'm not, too upset over either of these rankings. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of like either or. I feel in terms of Julian's pitching staff, it feels like Josh Hader is going to be a really solid pickup, depending if he can replicate what he was back in Milwaukee. I feel like he found his way a little bit when he got to San Diego. Nestor Cortez is about to be Nestor. I feel will find his place with the Yankees a little bit. Probably, I'm not sure if we've seen the best of him. I'm not sure if he can get any better than what he replicated or what he was last season. But hey, I mean, Yankees have just a pitching factory over there, a lot of good arms. So yeah, like you said, both of these guys, I do like the pickup for Bagdonis and Mitch Haniger. I'm a huge Mitch Haniger guy. When he's healthy, he's a good, like, at least 25 to 30 home run guy. Even in 2021, he had himself, I believe, somewhere in like the 40, 45 home run range, something crazy like that. So like, big on him. But yeah, I love these two guys' rosters. So it's interesting how they're gonna stack up.
Yeah, and Mitch Haniger too. It's a great bench piece. It's not like he's depending on him to be an outfielder, a starting outfielder in his lineup. He's on the bench, and if things don't work out, and you can drop him and pick up another guy. The risk reward for that pick is something that really works out well for him.
One more thing with Bagdonis, he's very high on, like, he's putting a lot of faith in Nick Castellanos to have a bounce back season. So I would say, like, that's something to look out for. But and I feel like it's like Castellanos is too good of a player not to be a monster in Philadelphia's ballpark. So I would say it's I wouldn't say high risk, but it's a low risk, high reward kind of move for him.
Gotcha. I'm with you. But high risk, high reward also is kind of not a bad route when you are assembling a fantasy lineup, which, when you look at my team, there's a lot of high risk, high reward. So I'm not going to criticize him for that. And then right here in the middle of things, we've got Hanafan at 6, and he said himself, this team might be great. I might take top 4, might get a little bit higher, and he said I might go dead last. So I think Hanafan's got pretty realistic expectations for his team, but another team with high upside, I think, and a pretty low floor.
Yeah, I would say somebody like he's picked a lot of guys that are he's looking for them, like young players or guys who've just been in the league, and also led by Xander Bogaerts, who I think will have himself a monster season with San Diego. I think last year was more of an anomaly in terms of the power department. So I think we'll see Xander be back to his former, like, even with his bat alone, Xander Bogaerts is a top 5 shortstop. So I would say he's putting a lot of faith in guys like Ron Grisham and Kyle Raleigh to kind of like have themselves good second seasons or second or third seasons. His pitching staff, I'm not the biggest Lucas Giolito guy, but I know he was pretty nasty a couple of years back. So, but like having Julio Urias, like he has a lot of bench, like a lot of good pieces in terms of that and that pitching staff. Giancarlo Stanton being just a guy you can take off your bench. It sucks that that it seems like I'm always been a huge Giancarlo Stanton guy, so I feel like it's gonna be a good pickup. But Mountcastle, I would feel that would be a lot better of a pickup if Baltimore's ballpark didn't do what they did to the left field fence. So but yeah, it's a lot of guys that, like, it's really high potential, at least in that case. I'm hoping Masataka Yoshida has himself a crazy season just to kind of just show what he can do, especially how he's been playing in the WBC. I just hope that's just a preview for what he's going to do for my Red Sox this year.
Yeah. And, another guy like Whit Merrifield too, like a lot of bounce back guys. Trey Turner, who knows what he's going to do this year. He's looked good in the World Baseball Classic, and lots of power. And with those new base running rules and the pitch clock, maybe he can add on some more steals than what he usually gets too. So he may be in for maybe a career year, possibly. But high upside team there for Hanafan. And then Jerry Walker and Garrett come in the 7 and 8 slots. Both these guys weren't present for the draft, but I do think both of them made most of their picks. I think Garrett had some auto picks near the latter portion, but he got the majority of his team were his selections. Well, during the draft, for anyone who watched, he had quite a few guys get sniped from underneath him. That was the theme of the draft. So maybe it's not the team he was hoping to get, but It's what he's working with.
No, absolutely. With his team, I feel it has some upside, but I feel it's going to be a huge like he has some good solid bats with Kyle Tucker and Randy Arozarena, who's been going crazy in the WBC. I like Seiya Suzuki. I hope he is going to be able to build off of what he was with the Cubs that first season for him. But yeah, Corbin Burns, Kevin Gausman, Brendan Woodruff. Like I feel like his pitching is going to do a lot of the heavy lifting for him. Having CJ Cron and Brendan Lau, I believe the guy out in Tampa Bay, be able to be like high power potential guys. Like CJ Cron can go off for another 40 home run season for over there in Colorado. But I'm hoping for Lau to have himself a bounce back season. I believe he was hurt a lot of last year. And like when he's healthy, he's a 40 home run guy. So absolutely a lot of kind of under the radar moves for him offensively. But Pablo Lopez going out to Minnesota, I feel he's going to have himself a really good season for him. With Garrett, I do like. I feel it's the opposite way. Even though he has some good arms like Devin Williams and Hunter Green. Hunter Green out in Cincinnati, I feel he's gonna have himself. He's gonna be able to be like step into that role as the Cincinnati Reds like ace. Like he's gonna be like he's arrived. I feel him offensively is gonna be kind of like how the Texas Rangers were last year with like like the two-headed monster of Marcus Semien. And in this case, it's Jose Ramirez. But Bobby Witt Jr., that's also really seems like a really high upside level pick. I feel like that kid is kind of up next in that regard. But I feel for him in terms of offense, you're gonna have Marcus Semien, Jose Ramirez carrying that. So I feel both of them are good spots, but obviously like the guys ahead of them, like I feel like their teams are just a bit better.
Yeah, and I'm with you on the Bobby Witt part too. That's a player that I was targeting. I think a lot of guys would like to have him, a guy with a really, really high upside. But like you said, you put it very nicely at the end. There's just a couple teams that are a little bit better. So I think we got some fair rankings here. But these teams aren't bad by any means. And then before we get into the craziness, we've got Saban at 9. Really nice pick. Probably one of the better picks of the draft was snagging Contreras for a catcher there. Late round pick, so that was good value. A lot of Braves players we got here. We got Albies and Acuna. But, this is another example of a team looking for the high upside. You want Acuna to come out and have another MVP-like season. You want Mike Trout to stay healthy. You want Luis Robert to finally have that breakout year that everyone has been projecting. A lot of really good players, but a lot of risky players. And that's kind of the trend you see here when you get to the bottom portion of these drafts where there's a lot of good players, but, these guys may put up, bad years. It's completely possible.
Yeah, for Saban, I'm curious. I'm just going to talk about his pitching first with like McClanahan. If he's banking on McClanahan having himself a all-star caliber season like he did last year. I'm not sure about Luis Garcia because with I believe if I'm recalling correctly, with the pitch clock, he has to change up his delivery. So that's something to kind of keep in mind of. Kodai Senga, we haven't seen what he's going to be able to do against major league pitching. He may be just a world beater and nobody's going to be able to touch him. I do like Garrett Whitlock. Garrett Whitlock, I feel, for me, is more tailored to be a reliever for the Red Sox, but I'm not sure exactly how they're going to go about their pitching staff this year right now. Jonathan India, I feel like obviously he kind of fell off a little bit after the rookie of the year season he had the year before. So it's going to be interesting to keep an eye on him. Alec Bohm, I know when Saban took him, I believe when Alec Bohm was taken, the kind of was an uproar, especially for McGinnis. But that was a whole lot of fun. But in terms of the offense, he has the potential to have one of the better offenses in this fantasy league. With like you got Willy Adames as your utility guy, and then you got if Robert becomes what he's been has the potential to be, then he could have a top 3 outfield. And if Acuna and Trout are able to have themselves their even average seasons from their standards anyway. But yeah, their infield is pretty good. I'm not sure what you're going to get a whole lot with Max Muncy. It seems like he was injured. It seems like he has a season where he's really injured or he's really good. So it's kind of like even keel when it comes to that kind of thing. I think Contreras is going to have himself a pretty good season out there in St. Louis, but it's big question mark is with Correa because all the offseason stuff with it, like injury history and all that. But I feel Saban has the potential to be one of the better teams in this league for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you. And another thing about Max Muncy that's nice is that he's got a lot of positional value in fantasy. You can put him at 3 or 4 spots. Bohm is a nice backup to have if he ends up having another down year. So at least that gives you like it's risky, but it's not as risky as it would be if you could only slot him in at one spot or he didn't have a guy like Bohm. So he kind of played that smart, I think. And then here in the 10 slot is the team that is being debated. Um, the Don Trey Dobbert did not like the fact that he was in the 10 slot. I won't pop up all the Slack messages on the screen. We got the team, or excuse me, we've got the teams up right now. But he did say, all I know is you guys better hope I don't win this league. Getting ranked 10th in the power rankings is hilarious. So it looks like we're gonna have another situation here where Trey comes out looking to win a league. And when Trey comes out looking to win a league, he usually does pretty good. I'll give him that credit. But this is a team, very risky team, and I'm sure a lot of players that you know and like. Considering Trey's a big Red Sox guy, you're a big Red Sox guy. So, what do you make of the team? I imagine you're a little bit higher than most just because of all the Red Sox on there.
I would say I see what Trey was trying to do in terms of Trevor Story and Bryce Harper. Look, those guys are going to be out for the long run, and seeing that he's utilizing his IL spots for those two guys. So if they come back and just set the world on fire, then absolutely that's going to be it's going to be looked at as one of the better moves that were made before the season even started. My thing is, and I really like Alejandro Kirk out there in Toronto, but I believe didn't they have a catching issue with Jansen? I didn't Jansen move on from Toronto, so I'm not entirely sure if that's the case. Then Alejandro Kirk is going to be a really good pickup, but I'm not sure. For some reason, I think Danny Jansen's on the White Sox right now. I don't know, but I do love Tristan Casas as that potential for being the rookie of the year this year. So I feel like that's what he was banking on in terms of when it came to that pick, and like DJ LeMahieu kind of going back to what he was a couple years ago for the Yankees. I do love. I understand the idea, and I love the fact that he picked Rafael Devers because the whole shift rules and all that. I feel like Devers is going to find himself on base a whole lot more. Mookie Betts, you can't go wrong with Mookie Betts being one of the top outfielders in the league, and by all means, I feel he has another MVP season just waiting in the wings over there in LA. I like Verdugo. I feel Verdugo is going to have something to prove this year. I believe this is a contract year and he wants to re-up with the Red Sox. So I think that's something he's going to be playing with a chip on his shoulder. And I feel a lot of players this year are going to be playing that way. So fingers crossed for Verdugo. For me, looking at Trey's team, I'm hoping that he plays well because a bunch of my guys are here and I'm going to be rooting for him. But I guess it's just like that shared love for the Red Sox. But I understand exactly what he was I understand for the most part what he was trying to do when it comes to some of these guys like Brian Bayo out there in Boston. I feel he's good. I feel like he's going to have a whole lot of upside for him, and I feel like that's just the word of the day for this for this show is just upside and high potential for guys. Felix Bautista out there in Baltimore, I feel like that guy has some really nasty stuff and can really hold it down for the back end of that Baltimore bullpen. Especially, I feel they're trying their best to be competitive. So I feel having a legit closer or at least somebody who can kind of step into that role is pretty important. And you actually have a legit closer on Trey's team with Emmanuel Clase. He had like 40 something saves last year. That dude's absolutely disgusting with that cutter of his. So a lot of guys who have the potential to get a lot of fantasy points. So I do like Trey's team, and I even had Trey ranked higher because I know Milo asked for everybody's input. So I had Trey ranked higher than 10th. I was really surprised that he was at 10th as well. But hey, that just goes to show. I told Milo that these power rankings could be irrelevant in a month's time. So
yeah, exactly. And as far as some housekeeping things, Trey has moved Bryce Harper, Trevor Story, and Bayo all to the IR slots or IL slots, excuse me. So, he hasn't picked up 3 guys yet. I don't know if he can yet. I don't know if when you can start adding or dropping players. But he did move 3 of those guys to the IR so he can pick up 3 players of his choice off the waiver wire. And there are still some good players available. It's not like we're looking at complete, a wasteland by any means. Some more injured players, some quality players. I'm just kind of looking through some names, but he will have a lot of flexibility in that regard. And if he wants to make a trade, maybe do something similar to what you did, like a 3-for-1. He wouldn't have to drop anybody either. So, I do like Trey's team. Some positional flexibility. Jeremy Pena, I think, was a really good pick for a utility player. I think Devers, Anderson, Betts is three really good hitters. Clase and Jansen. I'm not sure how good Jansen is going to be this year. But two, two relievers, I mean, they'll help you in the save department. So a lot of really high upside. And I agree with you. I think he probably should have been higher than 10. But it's hard to rank a team with high upside, high floor, super high in the draft. So you're kind of playing a catch-22 there because it really can go either way.
Yeah.
And another thing about Trey's also very consistent in making sure he sets lineups, very consistent in making moves, at least in the hockey, which is day to day, very consistent and makes good moves, builds his team throughout the year too. So that's another regard that isn't really taken into consideration in your in anybody's preseason rankings. So it's another important thing to watch out for. And then my team sitting here at 11. Now, I think Milo, summed it up really well. This is a team relying on what ifs. And that was kind of my strategy heading in. I'm not going to lie. Wanted a lot of upside. The only guy that I didn't go high upside with was Vlad, and that's because he was my first pick. But outside of that, it was all high upside guys. I mean, Buxton is your prime example of a high upside guy. O'Neill Cruz, high upside guy. DeGrom, great player. Will he pitch more than 5 games this year before getting hurt? Who knows? If he does, great looks. If not, I might be in trouble.
So I kind of Logan Gilbert twice is crazy.
Hey, that should come in handy. When Logan Gilbert is on the mound, I'm winning. And to be honest, I went a little homerish at the end of the draft too. Guys like Eduardo Rodriguez, Stroman, Riley Green, Alex Lang, those are guys that I like, or in the case of Lang, Green, and Rodriguez, those are guys who I'll play for my Detroit Tigers, who may be trash, but I had to get a couple players on my Tigers for rooting purposes. So I'm not going to sit here and complain like I should be higher. If things work out well, I may have a good team on my hands, but I might end up in dead last, and I wouldn't be totally surprised. That's kind of the way I like to play fantasy. So I'm not going to sit here and complain for getting ranked 11th. And give me an honest review. You don't have to sugarcoat it just because I'm sitting here. Give me an honest review of what you're thinking of my team.
Yeah, your team's. I'm just playing. No, but with Buxton, I feel that if Byron Buxton, I even asked this during the stream, if Byron Buxton is healthy, he would have been taken. Like somebody, I believe it was Andrew, said he would have been a first round pick. Mm-hmm. So I see, like, with Byron Buxton, if he's at his best or if he's at his healthiest, I feel he's a guy who can rival making another 40-40 season if he played like over 150 games. But with Jazz playing out there in center field, I know with Ketel Marte, and he made that transition to the outfield, he got hurt a lot more. So I'm not sure exactly what they're trying to do there. I feel Jazz offensively is going to have himself a better, start putting himself more into that superstar category. Wander Franco, I would say the potential's still there. He's still only like 22 years old, so he's still grown into his body. I feel at his best, he can be one of the better switch hitting infielders. He's already really good with the glove. It's just to see what kind of hitter he's going to become. Is he going to be a high power guy? Is he going to be somebody who's just going to become a complete hitter? In terms of the outfield, I like Byron Buxton if he stays healthy. Cedric Mullins, if he can just get back to what he was the year before last when he was when he had that 30-30 season, I feel like that's going to be very very vital for your team. O'Neill Cruz, I love, this dude is just a freak of nature. I'm just trying to figure out. I think for him, he's going to be like a low average, high power guy, but he's going to have a cannon of an arm. So I think in terms of the home run department, if he just plays a full season, you'll get yourself some production out of him. Shane Bieber, I feel like him he was a Cy Young Award winner a couple years ago. So I feel like the way just the Guardians are in terms of how they go about pitching, I feel is going to be not a breakout season, but it's going to be like a resurgence for him a little bit, having the kind of like the lackluster season, like for his standards anyway, from last year. DeGrom, I'm with you as well. Like DeGrom could have been a really good pickup if he plays well in Texas, or not plays well if he stays healthy in Texas. So it's mainly how, in terms of health, like if Vladdy can replicate his 2021 season and just be back in the MVP conversation, like at the worst, your team, like at the very best, your team can be like has playoff potential at the end of the year for this fantasy team.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going for. And for everyone out there, don't sleep on my man Alex Lang over in Detroit. He might be the closer this year after they moved off some bullpen pieces, and he's got nasty stuff. So that's a sleeper out of the bullpen that a lot of people who don't watch a lot of Tigers baseball, which I don't blame people who don't watch Tigers baseball, but if you don't, you might not know about him. So that's a sleeper guy there for my team as well that I personally like. And then last but not least, we've got Dom, who unfortunately isn't last, but he also was an auto pick. So it's hard to do much better than last when you're an auto pick. So can't really hold them very much on that.
I would say for Dom, there's a lot of big names in the pitching department for him. So I feel, at least on the pitching side, that's going to be where he gets most of his points. You got Matt Olson, who's going to be like a 30, 35 home run guy over there in Atlanta. He's just such a really good first baseman. Trying to see what's going on with Alex Bregman. Like, he started turning it up when he came back from, I believe, a wrist injury that hampered him over the past couple of years. So he has potential to have himself like a pretty good offense, I should say. But I feel the pitching for him most definitely would be, it's what makes or breaks this team right now.
Yep, I'm with you. And then now that we've got the fantasy baseball we went through everyone's team. Give me how many teams make the playoffs? 4, I assume.
Yeah, because I believe it's a league of 12, so 4 from each of the league. So 4 teams aren't making the playoffs. So yeah, I believe 8 in total.
Give me your 4 teams that you think are making the playoffs. I'm putting you on the spot, and I'll give my answer afterwards.
I gotta take a look at who's in each league. So wow, really, really hard hitting questions here. So we got to. I feel, at least for me, I definitely feel my team makes the playoff. I have like full confidence in my guys to make the playoffs, even if it's just on my offense alone. So I would say, let's see here. So in the East, I feel Trey and myself make it. I feel, because the thing is, everybody's teams for the most part is very, very competitive. So there may be a good team that just doesn't find its way into the postseason, unfortunately. But I feel, you know what? I would say, let's see. Wow, it's real close. You know what? I would say, as of right now, I would say Julian doesn't make it from the East, and I feel, you know what? And I would probably even say Jerry's team, led by Corbin Burns from the East. So it would be Trey, myself, Milo, and Julian. And then in the West, like unfortunately, I feel Dom's team doesn't make it, and probably, you know what? I'm trying to decide whether it's like between yours or Garrett's possibly, or maybe even Saban. But you know what? I would probably say Dom. I would say Dom and Garrett. I'll say Dom and Garrett don't make it.
Fair enough. I'll go. I'll say in the East you make it. Wait, it's 4 teams in East or 4 teams total?
I would say no. I believe it's 4 teams from each side.
Okay. In the East, then I'll take Trey, you, Hannafan, and I'll say Milo gets in. And then in the West, I'll take myself. I can't knock myself out of there. Then I'll take Andrew, Bagdonis, and I'll go save him for the last spot. I say some of those guys that have the high upside see that upside. So that's the direction I'll go.
Most definitely, I feel like there's going to be one team that's like just pops off or just is kind of like the Cinderella story throughout the season. So there's probably going to be somebody who knocks out one of like the heavy hitters somehow.
Yeah, exactly. And then we plan on keeping it short today. So closing thoughts here. Last thing we'll touch on is the World Baseball Classic. And you said you already talked about this a little bit. So if you just want to give me what your thoughts were on if guys should play in the World Baseball Classic, we've had some injuries this year, some bad ones too. Diaz is going to be a big miss for the Mets. Altuve injured as well. So just kind of, I know you already explained this, but kind of reiterate your thoughts on your stance in
Yeah.
playing in
So
these games.
Yeah, so when I talked with Andrew last week on on Friday's show, we talked about this was before I believe Altuve went down and before Arenado went down. It was a huge debate about the World Baseball Classic as a whole, as a concept, and all that. And me and Andrew shared the idea that the World Baseball Classic only benefits the game of baseball, and people who say that it doesn't matter and it's meaningless and all that stuff, they don't know, and they probably never watched a game of the World Baseball Classic ever. I've been watching this since the 2013 iteration, and I even posted an article about Fernando Rodney's performance in there, and like it means so much to me as a fan, and I know it means so much more to the players because some guys, even Nelson Cruz says it matters more to play in the WBC for him than it is to play and compete for a World Series. He said this is the World Baseball Classic is the real World Series because it's some of the best players from all over the world. So for me, I feel it only does better at being able to expand the game and be able to push it on, get the game of baseball on a more national stage. And you like the numbers aren't lying. Like the amount of TVs that we're watching, like Puerto Rican games and the games involving the DR in Japan, it's mind-boggling. People can't ignore that. So I feel people are just talking out of their butts when it comes to all the games being meaningless. Guys can get injured in spring training. So what's the difference there? I'd rather have my guys go and play their hearts out in the WBC so they can come into the season already on go mode and being able to produce for my team as well.
Yeah, I'm with you too. As someone who, when I was really young, I really loved baseball, and then I kind of fell out of it a little bit more as I got older. But some of my favorite memories watching baseball were watching the U.S.'s run. I don't remember the exact year, but it was the year they had Stroman, who pitched the 6 innings, no hit in the finals, I think it was, and they had Adam Jones make that catch off the Manny Machado would have been home run. Those are some of my favorite moments watching baseball too. So it's like the crowd too is the reaction that you get from when a big play happens in the World Baseball Classic. It's probably, I think it might be the most electric as it gets in terms of baseball. Those Philly crowds when they were in their playoff push last year may rival it, but I think I got to give it to the World Baseball Classic in terms of like pure excitement, fan enjoyment. I love the World Baseball Classic. And I like another thing that I like that's really underrated is those guys who play over in the Japanese league who are able to play and kind of compete against some of the biggest stars of the MLB. I think that's a really cool crossover that we don't really see that much. So I kind of like that as well. But like overall, I'm with you too, is I think we need the World Baseball Classic. It's not an every year thing. If it were an every year thing, I think it'd be a different discussion. But especially if you're a hitter, I think hitters should be full go mode. I understand pitchers if they have injury concerns. Like I wouldn't, if I were a Rangers fan and DeGrom was playing, for example, who we talked about, who has these injury issues, then I understand more why guys want to sit out. But if you're a hitter and you can go, I think it should be full go mode. So I'm with you on that. But I kind of wanted to hear your thoughts on that because I know you're a big baseball guy and I'm a big fan of the World Baseball Classic. So I wanted to make sure we touched on that before we got out of here. And we will wrap it up there. And Giamatti, thank you for doing this today. Great daily show. I enjoyed talking to you, and thank you for doing the heavy lifting on the fantasy baseball breakdowns. A lot of good insights on some of these guys. I liked hearing your thoughts on these teams as well.
I appreciate it, man. It's been fun. This was actually the first time we got to sit down, and it's coming up on a year since I believe you and me have both been here. So
it's intern class.
Yep. It's been leaps and bounds. I feel like, but it's nice to be able to kind of like stretch out my wings and kind of like put myself out there a little bit more and get to know everybody at the company a little bit more. So this is definitely fun. I hope we do it again sometime.
Yep, I'm sure we will. And someone will be back tomorrow. Whoever it is, someone will be in the seats tomorrow running the daily show. So make sure if you're watching, make sure you tune in tomorrow for that as well. But for today, me and Giamatti are out of here. So we'll see you later.
Peace and love. Take care.